They said I owed them for existing, demanded I pay them back. But when they lost everything, they came begging me for help. I wish I could say I was surprised. That when my parents sat me down, their faces unreadable, I didn't already know something was wrong. But I did, because that's just how they were. My whole life, everything had been a transaction to them. Every favor, every gift, every bit of support. Nothing was ever free. And that night? That's when they finally made it official. "We need to talk," my dad said, folding his hands in front of him. My mom was beside him, nodding. Serious. Cold. Like they were about to discuss business. I sat there silent. Waiting. Then, he slid a piece of paper across the table. I frowned, picking it up. And the second I saw what it was, my stomach dropped. It was a bill. A detailed invoice. For my childhood. "We've been doing the math," my mom said. "Raising you wasn't cheap." She said it so casually, like we were talking about the weather. I stared at the paper in my hands. Line after line of expenses. Food, shelter, clothing, even the cost of my birth. All totaled up. And at the bottom, a number. A number so large I felt sick. I looked up, waiting for the punchline. For them to laugh, say it was a joke. But they didn't. My dad leaned forward, his expression unreadable. "We expect you to start paying us back." I couldn't breathe. This wasn't a joke. They were serious. And that's when I realized. I sat there, gripping the paper, my hands shaking. This couldn't be real. But the total at the bottom of the page, the sheer coldness in their voices, told me otherwise. My own parents were charging me for existing. "Be grateful," my mom added. "We're only charging you this much. If we included interest, it'd be a lot worse." Interest. Like I was a failed investment. Like the only thing that mattered to them was how much I owed. I felt something in me snap. For years, I had ignored the signs. The way they only gave support when it benefited them. The way they kept a mental record of every little thing they did for me. How every favor came with strings attached. I thought it was just how they were. I was wrong. I forced myself to stay calm. To keep my voice even. And if I refuse? My dad let out a short laugh. Like I had just said something ridiculous. "Then you won't be welcome here anymore." I should have been devastated. I should have begged them to reconsider. But instead, I felt relief. Because I had been preparing for this. For months. Maybe even years. I just didn't realize it until now. I set the paper down carefully. Looked up. And said the words that would change everything. "I'll pay you back." They both smiled. Like they had won. Like I was finally falling in line. They had no idea. Because when I said I'd pay them back, I didn't mean money. I meant something much, much worse. I left that night. Didn't argue. Didn't fight. I just walked out the door, their precious invoice still sitting on the table. They thought they had won. That I'd come crawling back, desperate, ready to pay off my debt like some failure who owed them everything. They had no idea. Because what they didn't know, what they could have never guessed, was that I had been preparing for this moment for a long, long time. And now? It was finally my turn. I had spent years being their obedient child. The one who always played along, always met their expectations, always stayed quiet. But what they never realized was that while they were keeping track of what I owed them, I was keeping track too. Of everything. The loans they took out in my name. The fake expenses they claimed under me to get tax breaks. The credit card accounts they opened under my social security number. They thought I wouldn't notice. That I'd just grow up and never check. They were wrong. I spent the next few days putting everything together. Bank statements. Receipts. Documents they had carelessly left lying around over the years. Proof. Hard, undeniable proof of what they had done. And once I had it all, I made one phone call. To the IRS. It didn't take long. Not when you have evidence of fraud. Not when there's years of hidden money and illegal accounts. Not when the people you're exposing are arrogant enough to think they'll never get caught. A week passed. Then two. Then. The call came. Not from them. From a number I didn't recognize. A number I knew belonged to the federal government. I answered. "Is this my name?" My heart pounded. Yes. A pause. Then, we need to talk about your parents. I smiled, because finally it was time for them to pay. The call lasted 20 minutes. 20 minutes of me answering questions, confirming details, and walking the agent through everything I had found. At the end, their voice was calm but firm. Thank you for your cooperation. We'll take it from here. I hung up, my heart still racing. This was it. The beginning of the end. For days, nothing happened. No phone calls. No letters. I started to wonder if maybe, just maybe, they would get away with it. That somehow, after everything, they would slip through the cracks. Then, one evening, as I was heading out, my phone buzzed. A message. From my sister. Just 2 words. It's happening. I stopped in my tracks. Typed back. What do you mean? 3 dots appeared. Then, Mom and Dad. The house. It's surrounded. I didn't need any more details. I already knew. The investigation had begun. I pulled up the news that night, and there it was. A story about a high-profile fraud case under federal review. They didn't name names. Didn't have to. I knew exactly who they were talking about. I pictured them inside the house, watching through the curtains as officials combed through their perfect little world, going through bank records, pulling up hidden accounts, finding proof of every lie they had ever told. The same parents who had handed me a bill, demanding I pay them back, now faced a debt they could never escape. For years, they thought they were untouchable, that they could use me, that I'd never fight back. But now they were the ones scrambling. Now they were the ones who owed. And I was finally free. Or at least, I thought I was. Because the next morning, when my phone rang again, it wasn't my sister this time. It was them. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Call after call. Their names flashing across the screen. Mom. Dad. Mom. Dad. I just stared at it. Watching. Letting it ring. For years, they ignored me unless they needed something. For years, I was just a burden to them. And now? Now they were desperate to talk. I didn't answer. I let the silence drag on, knowing it was driving them insane. Because for the first time ever, I had all the power. Then, a voicemail. I hesitated. Then pressed play. My mom's voice came through. Shaky. Frantic. Please, we need to talk. This is all a mistake. You don't understand what's happening. Call me back. A pause. Then my dad's voice. Lower. Angrier. This has gone too far. Fix this. Now. Like he still believed he could order me around. Like I was still that scared little kid who wouldn't dare stand up to them. I left. Because he had no idea. No idea that I wasn't fixing anything. No idea that I was never coming back. And no idea that this was only the beginning. For the next few days, the news got worse for them. More headlines. More reports. Their accounts frozen. Their assets under investigation. And then, the moment I had been waiting for. A single message from my sister. They're losing everything. I sat with those words for a long time. Let them sink in. Let them settle deep inside me. This wasn't just karma. This wasn't just payback. This was justice. And the best part? I hadn't even lifted a finger. They did this to themselves. And now? Now it was time for them to live with the consequences. The next time they called, I picked up. Not because I wanted to. Not because I cared. But because I wanted to hear them beg. You have to stop this, my mom's voice came through immediately. Not hi. Not how are you. Just demands. Like always. Do you realize what you've done? She continued, her voice shaking. They froze our accounts. We can't access anything. She wasn't crying because she regretted what they did. She was crying because they got caught. This isn't my problem, I said, keeping my voice calm. Silence. I could feel the rage boiling under her panic. She wasn't used to this. She wasn't used to me standing my ground. You don't understand, my dad's voice cut in, low and sharp. You're making a huge mistake. I almost laughed. Because even now, with their entire world crumbling, he still thought he was in control. Still thought he could intimidate me. Fix this, he said. If you tell them it was all a misunderstanding, maybe they'll drop the investigation. I let his words hang in the air. They really thought I would rescue them. That after everything they did, I would just make it all go away. You're on your own, I said. Just like you wanted me to be. And then I hung up, letting the silence destroy them. For the first time in their lives, they were powerless. No money, no control, no one left to manipulate. And the worst part? The very thing they used to destroy me, money, was now destroying them. A week later, my sister sent me another text. It's happening. 2 simple words. But I knew exactly what they meant. The final nail in the coffin. The moment they had never seen coming. The moment when everything they built came crashing down. And I was about to watch it all burn. The text from my sister stayed on my screen. It's happening. I stared at those words, letting them sink in. I didn't need to ask what she meant. I already knew. This was it. The moment everything finally collapsed for them. For years, they built their lives around control. Power. Money. They thought they were untouchable. That they could use me, manipulate me, then demand repayment like I owed them my existence. They never once considered that they might owe me something too. And now? Now they had nothing. I called my sister. She picked up on the first ring. Her voice was breathless, shaky, almost giddy. They came to the house, she said. It was like a movie, I swear. Who? I asked, even though I already knew. Agents. Lawyers. Someone from the bank. Mom was screaming at them. Dad was trying to keep his cool, but you could see it. He was breaking. I could picture it so clearly. My father, always the stone-faced businessman, trying to argue his way out of this. My mother, frantic, shrill, watching everything slip through her fingers. The same parents who once sat me down and handed me an invoice for my childhood, now stood in their own home as it was stripped away from them. Poetic, really. They're losing everything, my sister continued. The house, the cars, their accounts frozen. Mom keeps saying she'll find a way to fix it, but... She let out a sharp laugh. There's no way out of this, is there? No, there wasn't. Because they did this to themselves. The headlines hit the next morning. Not just small reports. Not just rumors. This was everywhere. Their names. Their fraud. Their downfall. Splashed across news sites and social media. All the people who once admired them, who envied their wealth, their success, now saw the truth. And the best part? I never had to lift a finger. I sat back, scrolling through the comments. Some people were in shock. Some laughed. But me? I felt nothing. No sadness. No regret. Because the people I once called family had been gone for a long, long time. And what was left of them now was just the wreckage of their own making. But it wasn't over yet. Because just when I thought they had finally given up, they reached out again. This time with a desperate offer. The email came at 2 a.m. I almost didn't see it. But when I did, I laughed. Because after all these years, after everything they had done, they were begging. The subject line was simple. Let's talk. Like we were old friends. Like they hadn't tried to ruin my life. Like they weren't the same people who had handed me a bill and told me I owed them for existing. But now? Now they were the ones with nothing. And they knew it. I opened the email. It was long, rambling, filled with fake concern. We've been thinking a lot, my mother wrote. Family is the most important thing, after all. The same woman who told me I was on my own now suddenly cared about family. How convenient. Then came the real reason for the message. We're in a difficult situation right now. Understatement of the year. And we could use some help getting back on our feet. There it was. The real reason they reached out. They didn't want to fix things. They didn't care about me. They just wanted a way out. And they thought I was still weak enough to give it to them. I scrolled further. We know you have some money saved up. My stomach twisted. How did they know? I had kept my finances private for years. But that didn't matter to them. Because in their minds, my money was still theirs. If we all work together, we can rebuild. We can move past this. Start fresh. Start fresh. Like they hadn't spent my entire life treating me like an investment. Like they hadn't sat me down and demanded I pay them back for being their child. Now that they had lost everything, suddenly, I was worth something again. I took a deep breath. And then I wrote back. Not because I was considering it. Not because I wanted to help. But because I wanted to say one last thing. I'm glad you finally understand what it feels like to have everything taken from you. But unlike you, I don't believe in debts between family. So I won't be asking for anything in return. I just want you to know, this is the last time we'll ever speak. And with that, I hit send. I expected anger, rage, another call, another email. But instead, there was nothing. For the first time in my life, they were truly gone. And I was finally completely free. Days passed. Then a week. Silence. No calls. No emails. For the first time in my life, they were gone. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't over. Because people like them, they don't just give up. And I was right. Because just when I thought they had finally disappeared, they pulled their last, desperate move. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. At first, I ignored it. Then another. And another. By the fifth call, I finally picked up. Hello? A pause. Then a voice I hadn't heard in years. Hey, it's Uncle Mark. I froze. Uncle Mark. My dad's brother. The only family member who had ever treated me like a person. The only one who didn't buy into my parents' manipulation. And the only one I still had any respect for. Look, he sighed, I didn't want to get involved, but they won't stop calling me. They're saying you ruined their lives, that you turned against your own family. I let out a sharp laugh. They did this to themselves. He hesitated. Yeah, I know. And trust me, no one's feeling bad for them. But they're desperate. They lost the house. They have nothing. And now, they're saying they want to make things right. I felt a familiar anger rise in my chest. Make things right. After years of treating me like a transaction? After stealing from me? After trying to manipulate me one last time? Mark, I said, keeping my voice calm, do you believe them? A pause. A long one. Then, no. That was all I needed to hear. Because if even he, the only person who ever gave them the benefit of the doubt, could see through them, then I knew, without a doubt, this was just another game. Another attempt to claw their way back into my life. Do me a favor, I said. Tell them I wish them luck. And tell them this. I don't owe them a damn thing. Then I hung up. And this time, I knew, deep in my bones. It really was over. The last time I heard their names, it wasn't from them. It wasn't from Uncle Mark. It wasn't from some desperate email or block number. It was from a news article. A single line buried in a report about financial fraud and foreclosure. Their names. Right there for the world to see. For years, they had built their entire identity on status. On wealth. On being better than everyone else. And now? Now they were nothing. And no one cared. I stared at the screen for a long time. I thought I'd feel something. Maybe relief. Maybe satisfaction. Maybe even guilt. But all I felt was peace. Because for the first time in my life, they couldn't touch me. No more manipulation. No more guilt tripping. No more control. I looked around my apartment. Small. Cozy. Mine. No debts. No conditions. No one waiting for me to fail just to say, I told you so. I had built something for myself. Something real. And that was worth more than every single dollar they ever hoarded. Weeks passed. Then months. And eventually, they became nothing more than a bad memory. A lesson I had to learn the hard way. A past I would never go back to. Because in the end, they were right about one thing. Family isn't free. But not in the way they thought. You don't owe someone just because you share blood. You don't earn loyalty through power, control, or money. Family is something you choose. And I was finally free to choose mine.